Hello folks, and welcome to another episode of the Bootcast with Irish Bootstrapper. I'm your host Eugene Devereaux, and this is Series 4, Episode 5. Joining me in the hot seat today is a man from the west of Ireland. He's a performance coach, endurance athlete, and has some pretty amazing accomplishments under his belt. One of them, to name but a few, 24 marathons in 24 days, and if that wasn't enough, he decided to set out on a trek across America. In this episode, we'll learn about the ups and downs of endurance sports, both physically and mentally, how somebody's illness can have a very profound effect on inspiring us and changing our perspectives. And without further ado, folks, please welcome Mr. Shane Finn to the Bootcast. This one, Finnished, 24 marathons in 24 days. Shane Finn, thanks a million for coming on the Bootcast today and to share your story.
Thanks very much. Thanks for having me. Excited to chat and excited to be here.
No problem. You're welcome. What do you do yourself then?
Oh, man with many pies going at the same time. So I suppose at the moment I'm full-time self-employed since I was 20 actually. So I've been coaching since I'm 20 years old. In a previous life, I owned a gym for 6 years. I've been self-employed since I'm 20, and now I'm just coaching full-time, training people from completing under zero to their first 5K to getting people to run 100-mile ultramarathons, and everything in between. So yeah, it's been a great couple of years. I really do enjoy what I do. I love what I do. I do a lot of work in the US now as well, which is very exciting. It's brilliant. We're building a nice little team. So yeah, all is going good. So yeah, I suppose from a professional standpoint, I think I like to say I help people, so that's kind of what I do for a living. And it's a nice job.
Happy days. And just with the lockdown, like at the start of like COVID and stuff, were you kind of busy with work then, or like were you doing a lot of stuff online anyway then, or?
Yeah, I actually was. I was fully online pre-COVID anyway. So to be honest, I don't really talk about it a lot, but COVID was great for me. COVID was great for business. COVID was great for me personally. It changed a lot of my own personal plans for 2020. I was supposed to be traveling a lot of the world in 2020, but I to be honest, I'm from West Kerry, I'm from Dingle. I could be stuck in worse places, to be honest with you. But I was doing a lot of stuff online anyway. It's kind of way I drifted, I guess, in about 2017 because I moved away from the gym business and I could just see, a greater opportunity for scaling and stuff like that. And kind of, to be honest, wanted to kind of design my own lifestyle just a little bit. And I just found that going online and kind of automating some things could definitely help me with that,
Brilliant.
Yeah.
And so to be able to coach people and like get people to move up and to kind of challenge themselves, like you must have a good bit of experience yourself in doing personal challenges, whether it's physically or mentally. And can you name one time where you kind of really felt that, you pushed through a boundary of personal growth?
Sure. There's been a few now. There's been a few. I suppose for me, really, it's about a lot of the ultra endurance stuff, I suppose, as well as my job. I'm an ultra endurance athlete as well. So that's really where I suppose a lot of my work and stuff kind of comes from. I would help coach other people and stuff like that. So I suppose, there's been a few. The one that stands out mostly to me is the 24 marathons, 24 days in 2017. That was a big shift for me. That was the biggest kind of event I'd ever done. It did two things. It made me realize that I've been leaving a lot on the table, and I can do so much more. Do you know what I mean? So when you plan out these big things and these big events and you set yourself these big goals, you think that, God, this is going to be crazy. There's no way I'm going to be able to get to the last day. And you get to the last day and you're like, Jesus, like, how much further can I go? Do you know what I mean? That led me on to crossing America then in 2019, so it's it's a weird kind of a journey, but it's do you know what? It's once you get, you achieve something, it doesn't always have to be financial or work related or anything like that, but it can just be something personal for you as well. And doesn't have to be anything attached to it. It can just be something that you've been thinking about for a long time. And that helps you then build mental strength. Do you know what I mean? People always ask me, like, how'd you build mental strength and how'd you build resilience and all that kind of stuff? And it's just doing hard things, like, and then surviving and doing more hard things. That's kind of how I've come across it. And I just enjoy helping people do the same now.
With training for the 24 marathons in 24 days or the trek across America, like, was there any point where you were kind of self-doubting, or where you really struggled with it kind of mentally, and was like, in that moment you were thinking, what am I actually doing here? Like,
Yeah, more so America than the 24, because the 24, I think I had a lot of friends that, like, lads I train with and stuff around me all the time and things like that, so they really helped me out. Now in the 24 marathons, there was 24 individual days, obviously, and 19 out of 24 days I had people running with me, so a heap of support.
yeah.
In America it was completely different. I only, out of 36 days, I had one day where there was somebody else with me. So I knew in myself that it was going to be a lot quieter. It was going to be a lot of me versus me, a lot of deep thinking and thoughts and stuff like that. And the only moment of massive self-doubt I had was flying actually over there. When you have the map in front of you and you're on your flight over to, and then you see how far it actually is, and you're like, it took me longer to get from Dublin to New York than it did from New York to San Francisco. And I was like, I gotta freaking run and cycle this. Do you know what I mean? So I remember sitting on the plane going over there and being like very, very anxious. And I don't really suffer with anxiety, but I remember that being the first time I'm like, there's a massive, massive chance I might not finish this. And we coasted by it a couple of times, I'm not going to lie. But just to suppose as well, with the crew coming over, some of my family were coming over. A lot of people, close to me made sacrifices in order for this to happen. And I suppose, I felt a bit of pressure there. But, again, just took it day by day and got the job done, thankfully.
Like, what spurred you on to do that? Like, was there, when you did the 24 marathons, was it like, right, next?
No, not really. No. Usually when I finish these things, I'm like, I'm never again doing it. I'm going to retire. That's it. I'm done. But that rarely happens, to be honest with you. So, I suppose for me, I suppose my background into my introduction into this kind of world, I suppose, is very different. And from an athletic standpoint, I would have raced as a kid in cross country for school and stuff. But to be honest, like, the reason I really ran for school is because we got a day off school. Do you know what I mean? Or else there was the girls' team were going as well or something. That was the only reason I would have gone. Do you know what I mean? So, so then I suppose when I turned 18, left school, went to college, dropped out of college and just was a little bit kind of, I suppose, lost, really, to be honest with you. And I saw an advertisement for the Dingle Marathon. And the Dingle Marathon's a tough marathon, but I didn't know at the time, sometimes ignorance is bliss. And I have a first cousin, Mary, who is living with a condition called spina bifida. So Mary's a massive inspiration to me, and to be honest, she's the reason a lot of this kind of stuff has happened. Because I just decided I was going to run the marathon to raise money for Mary's charity. Did so, and I still to this day, the hardest thing I've ever done is that first marathon, because I was so unprepared. I was so raw. I had no idea what a marathon was. I had no idea how to train. I actually played a game with the club on the Thursday night before the marathon on Saturday. Like, I had no idea. I didn't even know what a marathon was. I didn't even know how far it was. I just knew there was a full loop of Slay Head. I was like, that's a long way, but I can give it a go. So from there, really, graduated on, obviously, and it turned it into my life. I was like, wow, this is amazing, and I suppose I needed something like that. I needed a kick in the backside, to be honest, when I was 18. A lot of young lads do at that age, and I needed something to bring me down a peg or two, and to realize that, the world doesn't all revolve around you either. Like, there's other people that would give anything to do this. Then the 24 marathons, the idea for that was, it kind of didn't happen by accident, but it was going to happen, I think, anyway, whatever way the stars aligned. But my first cousin Mary, as the years pass, her condition gets a little bit worse, and life gets a little bit more difficult again for her. And we just happened to meet a doctor of hers around Christmas time of Christmas 15-16. And he just mentioned something to me. He said, "Are you the cousin that does all the running?" And I said, "I am, yeah." And he goes, "She talks about you all the time, etc., etc." And our family had left. We just happened to meet them in a restaurant. It wasn't planned. They just happened to be across the way. And anyway, he just kind of said, it's when they were gone out the door, he said, "I'm not sure how much you know, but he said, that girl feels the feeling of pain 24 hours a day." And that was like, that hit me like a sledgehammer. Like, it was almost like we all remember where we were when we heard the news of 9/11. That was like another one of those moments for me. And I just remember, like, that whole Christmas, like, not even being present in my own mind, because I was just like, oh my God, like what am I doing? Like what can I, like, come on, like let's do something. And then the idea came because it was 24 hours a day to do 24 marathons in 24 days. And that was a massive success. We raised like 142 grand.
Jeez.
Yeah, and about a year, well, it's not supposed a year, that was obviously 2017, and it was fantastic. We got to meet so many great people. We got to meet a lot of families and kids from all over Ireland. And yeah, a couple months after that, I was actually in the US for work, and I got a phone call from the charity saying that their funding had been cut again for 2019, which was a bit of a kick in the teeth, because the money that particular chunk of funding that was being taken away or being cut was actually used for kids' summer camps every year. So they have a summer camp program called Shine, where kids from all over Ireland, every county, come to Wicklow for a week-long summer camp, and the parents can come and visit, or the parents can have their respite or whatever. And it's a huge part of what the charity do. And a lot of the funding was being cut or being reallocated, is the wording that they use, I think. And that really pissed me off, to be honest, because we had done so much work with the 24 marathons and raising awareness and funds and getting events going and stuff like that. It was just a bit of a kick in the teeth, you know. And then I suppose, you know, the other side of it then is, as the ultra endurance athlete, you're always kind of like, that was good, but I can go further, you know. So there was, I suppose at the time, the timing was ironic. I was actually in Connecticut, which is in between New York and Boston. I was right at a little town right on the water, and I've gone back there since twice, actually. And I remember just sitting in this cafe looking out at the water and being like, that's the Atlantic Ocean, sure, Dingle's only across the way. And I said to myself, I was like, that's it, like, you're across America. Do you know what I mean? Every endurance athlete, every ultra athlete wants to cross the US, you know. So yeah, I just planned it out and kind of went from there, you know, and the goal was to try raise about 50 to 60 grand to cover the summer camps for 2020. Ironically, now they didn't go ahead because of COVID, but we know they'll go ahead next year. And yeah, we raised like 75k, which was savage, which was great. And yeah, went and found a couple of dark places and found a couple of new places that I've never been. And yeah, it was really good. Really enjoyed it.
Good stuff. Well done. She's amazing. Would you say crossing America was the biggest physical challenge then?
Yeah, I suppose just the relentlessness of it, really. Like, it was, you know, we prepare for events. I prepare people for events that might be, you know, 4 hours or 6 hours or 10 hours or an hour. But this thing was 36 days, you know, so it was hard to train for it. The training was pretty relentless. Like, it was constantly straddling the line of trying not to get injured, but trying to push really hard in training. And I was training through an Irish winter, which I don't know if anybody here listening has done. It's not the most glamorous, you know, so I had to just do it as best I could. And, you know, I was training the body, but I was training the mind as well. I think that was a huge part of it for me. Because to be honest, at the end of the day, you know, when I do these things, you know, yeah, people be running with me and stuff, but at the end of the day, it's just me. There's nobody else really there, you know. And I say it's a lot of people that might want to run their marathons or whatever, that, you know, when you get to mile 20, like Mary or John won't be there to do it the last 6 miles with you. You know, you gotta go into that place yourself on occasion. So yeah, I do think America was by far the hardest thing physically, just the relentlessness of it. You know, kind of trying to manage injuries and manage sleep deprivation and weather and cities and all this kind of stuff. But yeah, no, like as much as it was tough, like I had a blast. I really enjoyed it as well.
You gave me a line just in the pre-interview. The human body will keep going. It's the mind you need to keep pushing.
Absolutely. And I you know, I tested that out a couple of times in the last few years, and especially in America, because I knew it. I was like, okay, I know what my body can do. I know where I can go. And I know that my own kind of, I suppose, inner dialogue and self-talk is actually quite important. And something a lot of people don't really work on. Do you know what I mean? We look at the YouTube videos and we read the books and we listen to the podcasts and the music and stuff like that. But unless you sort out what's going on between the right and left side of the brain, you know, you're still going to find it really hard. So, you know, I knew that I could push really hard. I knew, like, I know from myself, I know training and just going out and doing long days that I can go hard. And I know that, you know, once I set my mind to something, I can do it. But it's just, I had to put that into practice literally, because my body actually picked up my first little niggle on day 9, which was pretty early in. And, you know, my Achilles started to flare up because I had climbed for 3 days on the bike heading up the Rockies. And yeah, my kiddies got really angry, couldn't really put a weight in it and stuff like that. And you know, it wasn't a case of just drive through it. It was, I had to be really smart and just adapt. And you know, and very lucky my physio was there with me too, Ali. Like she was, you know, she kind of saved the day really, to be honest. But yeah, I think if people can work on their mind, you know, and I'm not going to sit up my high horse here and say, oh, it's all in the mind. I had to work on it too. You know, growing up, I was a very quiet, shy, self-conscious young fella as well. And the reason I suppose I am the way I am now is because I've done things that I found challenging, and I just got them done. And maybe I failed once or twice, but you kind of just get up and go again, you know. And that's what it is at the end of the day. And you know, for me then as well, I suppose the charity aspect, like my cousin married, you know, my 36-day trek across America, you know, my life went back to normal on day 37. I went for a walk around Manhattan with my family. I've been to New York 13 times. I showed my mother around the place. I brought her up the Empire State. Had a great day. You know, we went for a few drinks in the evening. But on the other side of it, my cousin Mary, her life went back to normal. Like her life, she had to keep fighting. Whereas my life went back. I could go back to being Shane again, you know. So things like that, you know, don't really, you know, I suppose when I'm in these events, yeah, I'm in a bit of a bubble and I don't really know what day of the week it is or anything like that, but I do know that they will end and that I will get to go back to normal, and I'm very lucky to be able to do it as well, you know.
What would be your top tip, like, for somebody who's starting out on a new challenge, whether it's physically or mentally, or starting a business or going traveling or whatever?
There will be bad times. that's what I know. Sometimes we plan these things out and we set goals and stuff like that, and we think about them, but we only think about the good things that can happen. And I'm not getting people to, you know, sit down and write down all the bad things that can happen. And it's actually something I've done myself. You know what I mean? I've actually, you know, I did it actually for America, and I usually keep things like that very private. But I remember sitting down one day and writing down. I was like, what's the worst thing that can happen? When you see it written down, it's not that worst. It's not actually not that bad. You know what I mean? We think that they're bad and stuff like that, but you'll have bad days, you'll have good days. I mean, out of the 36 days, I probably had more bad days than I had good days, but you know, I think one good day makes up for 2 bad days. So just keep going. If you have a bad day, don't give up. That's another big thing, you know what I mean? We see, you know, I work with a lot of people who are starting out their fitness journey from absolute zero, you know, and they have one bad day and they shut up shop and that's it. Like, it's all gone out the window, and that's not really the case. You know what I mean? So you know, it's important just to, you know, realize that you're human, that you will have bad days, you will hit a couple of speed bumps. But you know, when you do hit a speed bump in life, I mean, if you're going around driving around your housing estate and you come to a speed bump in a car and you hit it and you're like, that's it now, I'm not going to go any further because I just hit a speed bump. So, no, you slow down, you gather yourself and you pick up momentum then again, you know. So I think that's really important to bring that, I suppose, analogy into our lives as well.
When you finished the 24 marathons, what did it feel like? Or were you ecstatic, euphoric? Were you drained from knowing that, right, this was the end, and that you kind of mentally switched off then after it? Or
not a bit of mix of both, really, to be honest with you. Like, I would be completely burnt out after them, to be honest. I'd be mentally and physically drained. Usually with these things, I tend to lose a good chunk of weight, and I wouldn't be the biggest man in Ireland anyway. So that takes its toll as well on the body. So, you know, obviously with all these things, and people don't really talk about them either, like with these massive highs, there comes huge lows as well. So, you know, you have all these things you're working on and events, and like we were planning out the America trip for a year, and, you know, you click your fingers, it's done, and it's gone, it's over. You know, you're sitting on the plane going home, you're like, Jesus, what do I do now? You know what I mean? I mean, what's next? You know, and how do I integrate back into the world? So, you know, yeah, there is a bit of a lull, and what I do sometimes is I just go back to my roots and I just keep it really simple. You know, I take my Garmin off my wrist, I take my computer off my bike, and I just cycle around Slayhead, and I go for runs around places that I started running when I was 17, 18, and just go back to enjoying it. I think that's really important for me because, you know, I everything's so measured and calculated, and, you know, lifting and recovery, and like literally not going anywhere past 9-10 o'clock at night any night of the week for like 8-9 months, just training, sleeping as much as I can, eating. That's tiring in itself as well, you know. So I kind of just kick things back. I keep it really simple. I might go out with my friends. I'm a normal go for pizza or a couple of pints. I'm a normal young lad behind it as well. So, and then I just go back and enjoy it, and I go back to just having a bit of fun, because unless you're having fun, these things are very hard to keep sustainable. Do you know what I mean?
Super. Would you be a big reader of books or audiobooks even? Or?
A bit of both. Yeah, a bit of both. I need to allocate time to read. I wouldn't just pick up a book and start reading it. Do you know what I mean? I need to be like, okay, I'm going to read from 2 to 3, or else I can find it hard to just switch off. Do you know what I mean? Because I must get back to that fella, or I must do this, or write that, or whatever. I'm a big audiobook consumer, and I like, sometimes I do like to sit down and allocate. I kind of don't usually don't use my phone on Sundays, so I usually read, or I go training or whatever, and that's kind of my day for, I suppose, a bit of a mental break from everything, and kind of get the week planned. But I suppose I'd be more of an Audible consumer really, rather than a book reader. But I'm trying to get back to the book. I feel I can get distracted with Audible as well, and sometimes I can't soak in what they're actually saying. And if I feel like if I'm reading something, I take in a bit better, but should listen to my own advice on that as well.
Do you have a favorite book then?
I've got a few. To be honest. I love The Unsung Hero by Tom Crean. So Tom Crean, a lot of Irish people know Tom Crean. I'm from literally a mile and a half over the road from him. So I would have grown up reading children's books about him. My grandfather bring me to the pub to have lunch on Sundays, and going to visit the grave and the statue. Remember the statue being put up, and reading all about it. And I've actually read The Unsung Hero probably 6 or 7 times. It's brilliant. It's absolutely fantastic. So that's the one that's pretty close to home. And then as well, obviously, one a little bit further away is obviously David Goggins' book, Can't Hurt Me. I enjoy that as well. I read a lot of the
audio book of it there.
Oh yeah.
Jesus.
It's pretty full on, to be fair. But I read a lot of training and kind of training science stuff as well. And then I suppose from an actual physical book, the best physical book I've read is probably The 4-Hour Workweek by Tim Ferriss, which is a very good book as well. So I like Tim Ferriss's work too. It's a bit, can be a bit different from an Irish perspective. You kind of have to rethink a couple of things, all right, but you can definitely pull some value out of it. So they're my kind of main ones, really, If I was going traveling somewhere or something like that, I'd always bring an actual book with me too, just for the plane or whatever as well. Do
you have a favorite quote?
I do have a favorite quote, and it's not by anybody famous. It's actually from my cousin Mary when we were actually crossing America. And I remember one day having a particularly hard day, and I had lost the feeling in both my 2 outside fingers in both my hands, and but couldn't turn my head to the left because I had trapped nerve in my neck, and my knee was sore, my Achilles was aching, and it was pouring rain. It was freezing cold. There was snow coming in that night, and it was just not a great day, to be honest. But we were trucking away. I was getting there, and we had a kind of a deal where we said we'd FaceTime every kind of 3 or 4 days, and whatever. But I'd leave her ring me, and then if the phone was ringing, the crew would stop and pull me over so I could have a quick chat with her. And I remember just telling her, I was telling her how the odds were kind of stacked against me today. It was like, it's going to be snowing by 5 o'clock, and I told her that there was an 80% chance of snow from 5 o'clock onwards. And she said, what are you going to do? And I said, well, I'll keep going as far as I can, and for as long as I can until it's not safe anymore, and she was like, that's interesting. She said, well, if there's an 80% chance of snow, there's also a 20% chance that it won't happen, so that was her outlook on that situation. And that was a big moment for me across America, because I was like, the odds were stacked against me a little bit on that day, and there was an 80% chance that snow was going to come. But, even if you have a good chunk of idea that something might happen, there's always a small little glimmer of hope there. Do you know what I mean? And from a girl in her situation with she's got 99% of her odds are stacked against her, but she found one little glimmer of hope, and she found one little reason to be hopeful and to be happy, and that was a huge one for me, because I needed it at the time, and I've been thinking about it a lot ever since. So if there's 80% chance of snow, there's also a 20% chance that it won't happen. So that's one of my favorite quotes.
Brilliant. So safe to say that your cousin Mary would be a big inspiration.
Huge. Yeah, she's a great girl. She's great. She gives me a lot of she keeps me going, but she pulls me back down to earth as well pretty quickly if I need to be done. Yeah.
Shane, just before we wrap it up, would you have any tips for anyone who's kind of battling with COVID now, or struggling to, everybody's life has kind of been turned upside down the past couple of months, and it's can be hard to stay motivated or maybe work on new goals that.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, I suppose there's a couple ways to look at it. 2020 has been turning its head for everybody on planet Earth, basically, so that I take solace in that. I take comfort in saying, it's not just me, everyone's been freaking derailed by this thing. Do you know what I mean? So, part of me, I'm kind of I'm a bit of a double-edged sword when it comes to COVID. I'm just like, it's there. I'm just going to crack on anyway. Just kind of do my thing. You know what I mean? There is opportunity in this time. How you use this time, how you work on yourself, in a positive or negative way. I would sit down and have a really frank conversation with myself and say, what do I want to do? What can actually control here? Even in the worst of situations, there's still something you can control. A lot of people have heard of the quote, control the controllables, and I think now more than ever, that's very, very important. So it can be, committing to getting up 30 minutes earlier every morning and going for a walk, or going for a run, or doing a workout, or meeting your friends in the gym. Just those little things, and, just showing up for yourself every single day. I think that's really, really important. And it's been something that I've had to really work on myself as well over the last number of years, is that, everybody has bad days, and everybody has good days. Do you know what I mean? And it's not just, don't dwell on the bad. Just because you one bad day doesn't mean the next day is going to be bad. And that's one of the greatest things about the little world that we live in. Do you know, the sun will come back up again tomorrow. Do you know what I mean? You've another go tomorrow. So now the sun, you mightn't actually see the sun because it'll be foggy and cloudy, but it's there. All right. It's there. So, we've had a bad day, put the head down and get up and give it a crack tomorrow.
Brilliant. Solid advice to end on. And just before we go, Shane, if people want to reach out to you, get in touch, or maybe avail of some of your coaching services, what's the best?
Sure. Probably the best way would be probably the website. So shanefinn.com, and then social medias as well. I'm a hit and miss with social media. I have a love-hate relationship with it, but I understand its importance. So Instagram would be at _Shane Finn, and the same for the Facebook page and Twitter and stuff as well. So I think the best, if you're looking to get in contact, I think the fastest way would be probably via the website. And then as well, happy to chat to anybody if they need help with anything training related or anything like that. More than happy to chat.
Shane, thanks a million for coming on the Bootcast, and best of luck with everything in the future, and hopefully we'll meet someday soon.
Thanks very much, man. Appreciate it. And thanks for having me on. Appreciate you having me on, and best of luck everything yourself over the next couple of weeks and months as well.
Cheers, Shane. Thanks a million. Okay, mind yourself. Bye. So there you have it, folks. Shane Finn. Make sure to give Shane a follow on Instagram and check out his website as well, shanefinn.com. Hope you enjoyed that episode, and if you did, please leave a review, rating, like, comment or share, and tell your friends and family they might like to hear it as well. And remember, become the journey.